But I think the 80s have been a really treacherous time for America.
I call the 80s the what me worry generation.
It's the bottom line era. It's time to get hip.
I don't have a name for it. Just lucky I got through it.
It's all kinds of things that I never expected it to be.
Best of times, worst of times.
A decade very much dominated by illusion and manipulation.
Stallone, Madonna years.
Problem with decades is they take 10 years to go by.
You might call it the awareness generation.
That one is going to be a bit personal because the 80s was my time.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Apartheid is as evil.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
We believe it's John Lennon who was shot.
Just say no.
That's a good idea.
Fellow citizens, the 1980s have been born in turmoil, strife, and change.
1980, I got married. I still had a loft down in the village.
Should I stay or should I come?
I was totally into like punk rock and anarchy and, mayhem.
In 1980, I was just starting to make, I think, American Fool.
I had a hit record. We were starting on a tour.
Somewhere, somehow, somebody must have kicked you around some. Who knows, maybe you were kidnapped.
Summer 1980, I was hanging out in my apartment watching the dust balls roll across the floor.
Push me, cause I'm close to
1980 for me was the most exciting time that existed through the whole 10 years.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
1980, I was in my first year at film school, New York University graduate film school.
Very disappointed because the Olympics in Moscow is something I've dreamed about since I was a small child.
1980, I would have been working part-time as a cinema usher and part-time as a restaurant DJ.
I had just quit my manicuring job the year before, so I was just starting to totally make a living at being a performer.
Oh, it doesn't matter what they say in the papers. It's always been the same old scene.
The economic posture of the auto business today is that the next 6 months to a year are going to be pure hell.
Do you really feel you're better off than you were 4 years ago?
In 1980, I was covering the presidential campaign for NBC News.
He's opening his campaign down in the city that gave birth to and is the parent body of the Ku Klux Klan.
Without your help, I cannot win. We want Reagan! We want Reagan!
Well, how did I get here?
Un disastro.
Across the ocean. I think I had just at that time hit my bottom from the drugs I'd been taking in the 70s.
Leaving just a memory.
Yes, you can walk on the street. You will be able to walk it, but I would be walking on tents like that, waiting for somebody to say something or jump on me.
I have the extremely sad task of informing you that John Lennon died tonight.
We believe it's John Lennon who was shot.
He was dead on arrival. How many shots back and how many times?
You had multiple
crowds of fans have arrived at West 72nd Street and Central Park West. Many of them cannot believe that this has happened, especially in light of the fact that the new album is now out.
It's just so terrible. It hurts me. It really does. It's like the whole world is just caved in. It's really like love, love, love. If someone had to soothe him like this, I'm only 16 years old, and I love the man. Why?
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
I think President Reagan's election was an attempt to get back to values which perhaps people had already found lacking.
Can we solve the problems confronting us? Well, the answer is an unequivocal and emphatic yes.
The planes bearing our prisoners left Iranian airspace and are now free of Iran.
Now we're getting somewhere. Push me back to the start. Now we're getting somewhere.
To his credit, Reagan made an amazing impact. When he got into office, he actually did stuff.
His personal popularity, which cannot be underestimated. The fact is, you can't help but like Ronald Reagan when you meet him. I've seldom agreed with his politics, but he is a nice man.
Only in this country, only in America could we elect an actor for president. Now, if that doesn't say something about this society, I don't know what does. Go ahead, make my day.
The president has been shot once in the left chest.
This is the end of the innocence.
They are in violation of the law. They have forfeited their jobs and will be terminated.
Yesterday, we were told that unemployment has gone up another 0.2%.
What about the promise that the burden would be shared equally?
Beautiful for spacious skies. Now those skies are threatening. They're beating plowshares into swords for this tired old man that we elected king.
But Reagan had a bedside manner for a dying nation, you know. He could sit there and cheer, make us feel real good about everything, you know. Everything's great, kids. Right on. It's just not the truth.
The subject I want to discuss with you, peace and national security, is both timely and important.
Guns in the sky.
We begin bombing in 5 minutes.
Guns in the sky. Guns in the sky.
To develop a system like this from scratch, you can imagine it's trillions. Well, it was supposedly $3 trillion to build the whole thing and get it up there. That's a lot of money for a lot of people, especially when you got a $6 trillion deficit because you wanted to have a laser system to shoot down rockets which are not going to be launched at you.
To ignore the facts of history and the aggressive impulses of an evil empire, they reserve unto themselves the right to commit any crime, to lie, to cheat. They are the focus of evil in the modern world.
Mr. Reagan says we will protect you. I don't subscribe to this point of view. Believe me when I say it to you. I hope the Russians love their children too.
We have made history. The language of arms control was replaced by arms reduction.
I was convinced that the president would, in the end, think it was a good idea.
I misled the Congress.
We believe that the president is responsible.
Everybody that can remember what they were doing on August 8th of 1985, raise your hand.
We did not, repeat, did not trade weapons or anything else for hostages. I was not fully informed.
I'm not going to lie about that. I didn't make a mistake.
Mistakes were made. What began as a strategic opening to Iran deteriorated in its implementation into trading arms for hostages. I have directed that no further sale of arms of any kind be sent to Iran.
Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender. Just laughing again like a clown.
I think Reagan wasn't that far out of line with the way the majority of this country was thinking.
He made the image of the cowboy alive in the world again, and I think that's good.
He never saw civil rights he fought for, nor did he ever see a weapon he would not buy.
Damaged this educational system.
It was Disneyland in the White House.
This drug thing that we're going through now is a legacy of the Reagan years.
Every time there's an election, I go, if they elect this jerk, I'm going to leave the country.
They steal from the poor and they give to the rich. That's the Reagan years.
We wanted Ronald Reagan, and we deserved him, and we got him.
Profit. Wall Street.
Where we screwed up in the 80s is that we were all trying to get rich and famous.
Pounds. Dollar. Millionaire. Dollar. Pound. Dollar. Millionaire.
I believe that the supply side theory is workable. You're going to get a better economy, you're going to get more jobs, you're going to get a higher standard of living.
By God, in America, one of the great things about this nation is that we can seek profit. And I'm proud of that. If you can gain profit, that's even better.
What's that man down? 24-4, 6 to 10,000, 10,000, 8.
People looked at these Wall Street characters and they said, I want to be like them. Money became a new drug.
Sometime in the 80s, we decided that the product of American business was profit.
I'm not going to argue that I want to make money. I want to win. And the bottom line was to win.
From the minute you're growing up, you're kind of told two things and they don't match. One, you're told that you have to be moral and just and all this kind of thing. And at the same time, you're told, grab it while you can, get it before the other guy gets it, and get rich as quick as you can.
We somewhere philosophically decided that if it's a rat race, it's okay to be a rat.
This is like something out of Dynasty. People have no idea what's going on.
There was never misuse of funds here.
Now, just because I'm a Christian doesn't mean I don't like nice things either.
If you and enough people will send me $100 immediately, I need some very quick money.
It could be chemically induced. That would be the kindest thing to say about the greed in the 80s.
It's just money, money, money. Now, now, now. Money, money, money. Now, now, now.
You making a lot of money?
Yeah.
Have you made a lot of money in your day?
Yeah. Millions.
One of my reasons for wanting to do the Diet Coke thing was, one, because it gave me loads of money.
I've seen the future, I can't afford it. Tell you the truth, son, someone just bought it. Say, Mr. Whistle, here come the click of lights.
I mean, I wouldn't mind being like, rock star or nothing, but as long as rock star is defined as rich and rich.
I mean, what happened to the good old values like honesty, integrity, compassion? What about those things? No. We got to go for rich and famous.
Won't you give me a break? Somebody give me a break.
I've been successful in a decade where those things are all considered to be profanities, I understand why it's happened. I think it's not fair on me particularly, and I maintain that being wealthy is not a right-wing act in itself.
The best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees.
If you're spending New Year's at Annenberg's house, you're not going to walk around in Levi's. You got to have a gown. You got to have china that costs, what, $250,000. You need this.
Bill Blass I wore last time. For Mrs. Thatcher, I'm going to wear. Are we still on?
The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil.
I think it's good to make money. Believe me, I'm a devout capitalist, but I think there's a way to do it with some morals and some ethics and without making the world worse because you made a profit.
Now you can tear a building down, but you can't erase a memory.
It ought to be a win-win. It ought to be a fair deal for everybody. And in Reagan's America, it was a dream for relatively few, but a nightmare for millions more.
We must address economic equality in this country and in this town now.
We're not all drunks or junkies. Just most of us are just normal people that had some bad times.
The real truth of it is, in America, you have a 90% chance that if you're born poor, you're going to die poor.
It makes me run around and want to beat on my head. It's just something that I think, you know, what other response can you have to it?
Is there a point when you have enough money or enough fame? Is there? We have to ask ourselves that.
Television seems to be here to stay.
I'm a couch potato.
Well, it seems like there's less to watch.
I can remember when there wasn't even television.
Communications has expanded.
You're a complete idiot if you believe things you see on television.
We are worshiping television. This is getting more and more twisted, folks.
We stand. Remote control buttons in our sweaty little hands.
You can't run I Love Lucy forever, folks.
I think I'm going to watch TV.
Why do people watch Hollywood Squares?
Hello, stars.
Hello, John. We now have 50 channels on television, and it's all shish.
Hang the creeps by their testicles. So give me more. I like your...
Sensationalism sells.
There's a little trash in all of us, folks.
My idea of a relaxing week would be like Oprah was on 6 hours, Donahue was on 4 hours.
Absolutely not. Where do you draw the line?
Sorry, I don't go for that.
What's the difference between a black person and a nigger to you?
It's just sensationalism because we want it now.
I am bothered when I see television giving us, the viewers, not their best.
And the excuse is, well, people want this stuff. Well, why in the hell do we have to give people what they want? Why don't we give them what they need once in a while?
I watch television, you watch television, and you probably don't admit it.
An amazing amount of very useful information comes across.
It's just stuff.
Oh, television? I don't watch that. Well, of course you don't. I can tell you're much too good a person for that.
Fashion,
look, style, beauty, excitement. You know what it is?
You want to know about my clothes? This is a suit. I got it. It was on sale for $10.48. I have it dry cleaned now and then. I asked them not to use any detergent because I don't approve of that.
fact, if people say you should do something, I would recommend running right out and doing the opposite.
You know, every now and then you might wake up in the morning and you look perfectly good in the mirror and everything, but you'll just go off and you'll take a fashion risk.
Cufflinks like this cost money, okay? Let's be frank. Can we be frank? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Simon Le Bon of Duran Duran.
Music and fashion are very closely connected.
I hate to say this, but I don't think we've got any more style than Bruce Springsteen. I think Bruce Springsteen has an incredible amount of style.
Check my look in the mirror. Wanna change my clothes, my hair, my face.
Yeah, we see a variety of hairstyles in rock groups these days, huh? One must never underestimate the power of a good hairdo.
If your hair isn't exactly right, you're doomed. You could have no career. You know, you could get fired for your hair.
I don't know why I have big hair. Like I say, I haven't always. It's just sort of grown and I like it like that.
She has great underwear.
We wanted to try and avoid the typical heavy metal look.
We got our own thing.
I loved the 80s because you could wear whatever you wanted. You could wear a man's suit. You could be as conservative as you wanted, or you could be as funky as you wanted.
I died.
Hey, this is Drug.
No.
Drugs could be the final blow to undermine the fabric of our society.
This generation must see the drug war as the war that we can't lose. We must win that war.
Some say man ain't happiness, man truly dies. Oh,
This is Drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? Bass.
Well, beginning of the decade, I guess Coke was a darling drug.
Get higher, baby, and don't ever come down.
Periods in history maybe get the drugs they deserve. The drug that became the drug of choice is a drug that makes you narcissistic, infantile, and really greedy.
Everywhere you go, crack. Just say no.
Just saying no is like saying just cheer up to some manic depressant. It's not that easy.
Crack was really a drug about manipulation to sort of keep poor people and uneducated people in a certain position.
When drugs got within the perimeter of white middle class America, then the alarm went out, and then it became a national concern.
Don't do drugs.
Think twice before you do drugs.
Drugs suck.
Nobody told me there'd be days like these. Strange days indeed. Strange days indeed.
I see so many things going on in this business. Really, my only crime was getting caught.
If you're gonna do hard drugs, they're gonna either ruin your life or take it. Drugs was worked for me at one time. It was an inspiration, but I never saw it take me down. I used in spite of adverse consequences. I died and didn't give a shit.
It's pointless saying we're going to send people into Colombia and scare the shit out of them. Because no, it's not going to work. People, as long as there is demand, there is always going to be a supply.
It's a bigger business than GM, and they don't advertise.
Move through my
For those who let drugs make their decisions for them, you can almost hear the doors slamming shut.
Bush was hilarious on TV. We're going to arrest the users now. You can't get arrested for murder. More or less get arrested for dope. Where are you going to put it? Are you going to have to put half the population in jail?
I think the stuff about drugs now is that everyone still does them and says they don't.
Selling drugs is one quick way to make the money and get the stuff that they think is going to make them happy.
See what's become.
The trick is to get people not to want to take drugs.
And that means education, and it means all kinds of things, but it means changing society.
If the parents can really find a way to communicate with the kid, live your own life. But if you do this, this will happen. It's really a communication between you and your kid.
Fads.
It's really boring.
I want that. How can I get that?
He's real frightening looking. He doesn't look human.
I took that girl out on the floor. She rocked me from the backside. We did the butt till it made me sore. Now, it's the best of the night. But you just shake, 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 doing your butt all night through. Come on. Doing the butt.
I like to sit on the sofa.
It's almost this.
Yeah. Okay, go.
Jimmy, happy birthday.
Is there anything like this?
Wait, don't touch that!
That's our version of storytelling.
The collective energy of goodwill, of radiation of heart, combined in a very sort of global synchronistic phenomena.
Cancel all this.
Keep busting.
Batman, what's up?
You know what? I'm gonna have some fun tonight. I'm gonna call the 7000 party line. Hope you're there.
About everything.
Yeah.
And listen to the true confessions of America's hottest female singer.
Maybe you should come over. We're having a party.
I'm waiting, lady.
Don't you think it's time you call?
Call now!
Let me out of here.
I'm not perfect, but I'm perfect for you. Now I'm right on time. I'm not perfect, but I'm perfect for you. I feel right on time.
Twisted body chemistry is all it is.
Another almost unbelievable phenomena of the decade was the changes Michael Jackson went through, making himself through changing his voice and changing his, his entire face and creating something. I mean, again, like Disneyland, you know, and seeing Disneyland really become part of real life.
During the Reagan years, it became fashionable to be, you know, a racist.
They're taking our jobs, our land, our money.
The general mood of the country is like, enough is enough, you know. They move into our neighborhood.
They come into our neighborhoods.
They want to marry our daughters.
They rape our women.
That's it. No more affirmative action. No more nothing, you know.
There's blacks with knives and whites with clubs, fighting at Hell Beach. There's no such thing as human rights when you walk the New York streets. There's a rampaging rage rising up like a plague of bloody vials washing up on the beach.
That's always been the fallacy, that racism was a product of the South, the Deep South, and you had to go to Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, but you know, it's happening right here in New York City, the world's supposedly most liberal city in the world.
Hold on. Something happening here. You better hold on.
Police officer shot him in the head without saying one word.
Vincent Chin would be alive today if he were not Asian.
Brother, I don't like what y'all doing to the black people. Y'all hurting me. I don't like it. I swear to God, I don't like it.
I think a lot of times blacks attribute or name racism where there really isn't any. I think they name it where it's economic. I think they name it where it's fear. But the part they're unmistakably right about is that they're in the warhead, see? So when our families break down, their families will be broken down more. They will be affected more by lack of employment opportunities, by hopelessness, by rage.
You are a slave. In 1985, a dressed up Brooks Brothers alligator shoe wearing, diamond ring wearing slave. Fight the power. Fight the power.
Well, there you get black racism in action. Farrakhan, Public Enemy, a lot of anti-Semitism going over there. It seems to be popular to be a racist. You're seeing it in comedians and rock and roll.
I used the word niggers because it just fit.
Police and niggers, that's right.
Among black people, it's just common language. You know, like saying, yo, man, it's like, yo, nigger, or whatever. So there's a lot of different meanings to that word.
Radicals and racists, don't point your finger at me.
People for some reason have become less accepting and have felt that it's okay to be prejudiced and to be racist, and it simply isn't.
We're rockers and rappers, united and strong. We're here to talk about South Africa. We don't like what's going on.
Apartheid is as evil, as immoral, as unchristian in my view as Nazism. The Reagan administration's support and collaboration with it is equally immoral, evil, and totally unchristian.
South Africa makes me ill, sick, all over, everything. When I think about it, I can't do nothing. Can't even play.
Down there, what's happening is so out in front, but I think it's a good moment for us to take a look at the racism and the prejudice that still exists in our own backyard.
Across the lines, who would dare to go under the bridge.
We needed somebody here to show them blacks their places.
Our main enemy is the Jews, the Jewish conspiracy to enslave white people.
The ugliness of it is the reemergence of the Klan as a dominant force. Indeed, a Klansman elected to public office in Louisiana.
I think there's a lot of racial hatred today, but I think it's coming from the other side. There's more minority racism today, I think, than coming from the members of the white majority in America.
If I have a black, I have a woman, two Jews, and a cripple. And
why are black men or black people not good swimmers? Because they don't have the buoyancy.
If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people.
I don't understand the insistence by those who want to honor Dr. King to insist that everybody do so.
Who would dare to go?
I can't imagine anybody stupid enough to believe that this isn't a racist society. I mean, who could believe that? It is. It is a racist society. And I think it's got a chance not to be.
If not now, then when? If not today.
Whites are afraid for a reason. Blacks are angry for a reason. What do you do? I don't know. I don't have the answer, and the 80s certainly did not have the answer.
We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. On tomorrow night and beyond. Keep hope alive. I love you very much.
Wanna spend our lives.
The outrageous edge of rock and roll has shifted its focus from Elvis's pelvis to the saw protruding from Blackie Lawless's codpiece on a Wasp album.
Bend up and smell my anal vapor. Your face is my toilet paper.
It's outrageous filth. And we've got to do something about it.
This is one senator that feels that there's no absolute right to free speech. We now propose one generic warning label to inform consumers in the marketplace about lyric content.
Taken as a whole, the complete list of PMRC demands reads like an instruction manual for some sinister kind of toilet training program to housebreak all composers and performers because of the lyrics of a few. Ladies, how dare you?
Parents can thank the PMRC for reminding them that there is no substitute for parental guidance, but that is where the PMRC's job ends.
Who has the authority to decide what is too much? Who are you going to hand that authority to? And after they're done rating the records, don't you think they'll find something else to keep them busy?
I always felt that the 70s got the music it deserved, disco. And then since the early 80s got the music it deserved.
Come on, Eileen. Oh, I swear.
No one was really expressing anything universal. I mean, who's going to look back at Wham or Duran Duran and say, well, what happened to the way we were? You know, it's like everyone's just going to laugh and thank God that they're older, I think.
So when MTV came along, and I think there started to be a revitalization of the whole industry.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
You'll never look at music the same way again.
Video killed the radio.
I think MTV is going to change a lot of kids' attitude.
I live in a town with one pancake house and 2 banks. And what the hell kind of place is that?
MTV. Finally, a channel for the way you think.
Look at them yo-yos, that's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV.
Come on, make my video.
Videos are just little commercials, and they initially made stars of some people, you know, who have a talent for making videos. Not everybody's good at making a video.
I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Oh, I always feel like somebody's watching me, who's playing tricks on me.
The videos are screen tests for life, man. All we're doing is making short movies.
The video shouldn't explain the song, because I can't even explain the song.
I think video has taken away people's imagination.
I don't believe that. I believe that it enhances it.
It has become priority. I mean, it's not enough to have a good album and a good photos anymore and do all your press. You've got to do a video with it.
Pop, pop, pop music. Pop, pop, pop music.
A lot of musicians and artists got passed by. They didn't look pretty enough to be in videos or whatever. And yet they might have made great music that was really from the heart.
It's caused a whole generation to grow up without the knowledge of music. They know pictures.
It's really been a horror because I really hate that type of MTV editing, where there's a cut every 2 seconds.
Guys, you had something great, you know. What did you do to it?
Doodle doodle dee.
Pretty soon you guys have an audience of 5-year-olds.
Wubba wubba wubba.
It's no use pretending that I understand.
There are other bands out there that are writing great songs and stuff, and they're just not getting they're not getting the attention.
But every once in a while somebody comes along like Robert Cray and reaffirms my faith. You know, it's the good stuff gets through. There's just not a lot of it.
I didn't listen to rock and roll for a long time, and I liked the Sex Pistols, but it kind of came and went. And then there was this thing, metal, real metal.
And metal, for me, you know, has kind of revitalized rock and roll. Thank God.
Yes. but that's how it goes. I'm your turbo lover. Alright, I'm in love with the Yankee Rose.
There's some heavy metal bands that I think are great. And I just think they're great. I think they're for real and they're exciting and there's just some that are just so derivative. It's like silly. They're just silly. It's Spinal Tap.
This all becomes Spinal Tap after a while, you know. So you might as well have a sense of humor about it.
If we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
There's a core pattern that runs through us all, and rock and roll just tapped into it. That's why it's so great, because everybody can relate to it. Rap is the same thing. There was a need for it. Personally, I feel attached to the rap scene because of Walk This Way.
This is a versatile music, and that's Run DMC's mission, to let everybody know that this is music and it's here to stay.
This is our sound. This is what we do. I just hope that they remember where it came from.
Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. With a hip hop, the hippie to the hip of the hip hip, a hopper, you don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
Rap music sort of overcame the sort of temporariness of fashion or trend or something and became something that was really a permanent thing.
Well, she stood me up. Roxanne, Roxanne. Roxanne, Roxanne.
When Fat Boys came out, it was like novelty, something totally different. Three fat guys and the beatbox, and all of that combined, they were definitely the hottest act.
The Wild Wild West. The Wild Wild West.
I'm in that Cali, shaking them, baking them, taking them to spots they never before hung.
Probably like a lot of people don't realize that hardcore and rap really are very similar.
These girls, you can do it, just get up and do it, just like they do it.
Thinking of a master plan.
The new fad is intelligence.
I think very deeply.
I think that probably rap has a lot more social comment than rock and roll now.
Stop the violence! Rather than systems! I'm talking about
And then some of these guys are, you know, talking about such violence. I hope that that's really not their world, because if they live in that type of world, I'm sorry.
What those guys did with sampling and scratching records. And I thought, yeah, you know, it's amazing. They're actually getting in there and physically altering the technology and making it do what they want.
break it down.
De La Soul is from the soul, and that's all it is.
Get the daisies for the potholes in my lawn.
So rap albums are on a different level. We are not psychedelic rappers, and we are not hippies.
I think rap music could be like something that would stay around forever and ever, and the guys that do it could get back together when they're in their 50s and 60s.
Rock and roll has sort of grown out of its adolescence now. Rock and roll has kind of reached middle age along with the baby boom generation.
as rock and roll matures and gets older, at the same time its audience does, I think the audience is also relating to more than they related to when they were 18 or when they were 25, and that the rock and roll can reflect that and just go on till somebody's 90.
There's no point in getting to be 44 or 45 years old and think you've got to compete with some 20-year-old guy. This music's growing up.
When the manager comes back and says, do you know there's not a single person out there that's over 15 years old? And you go cold, you think, where are all my people? You know, they're all paying off their mortgages, you know.
These are going to be very interesting years, I think, for the likes of, you know, like of Bowie and me and Elton and Jagger and everybody else that's over 40, to see what the next 10 years is going to hold for us.
Forever young, forever young, forever young. Yeah!
It's a good thing that they're out there playing again, but it shouldn't be the centre of media attention. Nostalgia should be nostalgic.
Some of what these people did was kind of teenage party music, and when they do it at age 40, it's stupid.
I think if you do something good, something that has a quality and a timelessness and has a lasting value, then you can stick around for a while.
$29.99. Absolutely free. Oh, yeah?
I am here for the money, and I'd make no apologies for that.
Don't need no cash, don't want no money, ain't got no stash.
They're trading on an integrity that is to someone like me, it's my life. It's a sacred thing that we have.
They're doing it for the money. That's okay. Hey, I'm doing it for the money. But you're also selling out people who enjoyed what you did.
It's one of those things that's going to become standard procedure, I guess.
I think we've gone too far. You know, it's not about writing music anymore. It's not about rocking out. It's about getting rich.
Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven?
I made money in 3 or 4 days that I didn't make in 10 months touring. What's the harm? Where is the harm? Where is the damage? You know, they're damaging their own songs. Who gives a shit? You know, it's their choice.
Sex. It can be made ugly. It can remain beautiful and private. And it is frightening. It is a second thought. You don't drop your pants so easily.
Push it real good.
Ow!
The desire for sex is a very strong one.
I must relinquish my title as Miss America.
Sex is one of those things like money. You gotta always devour it one way or another or something, you know, it's a temptation.
Whether I did, whether I didn't, I wouldn't answer it one way or the other.
I don't honestly think that people's attitudes to sex are changing that drastically.
Come on!
Did I do anything immoral? I absolutely did not.
Might as well face it, you're addicted to love.
I think it's human nature. I think that if you had a button on your sleeve that was attached to your erogenous zones, every time you hit it, I think we would all, maybe I should aim this to me, we'd be hitting it like this all day long until we passed out.
The devil inside, every single one of us, the devil inside.
I don't appreciate preachers that
getting mixed up in adultery and every other type of sin that one can imagine.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
To all the girls I've loved before, who travel in and out my door, I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song.
Sex in the 80s, I don't remember.
I think people are still having sex, just being more careful.
Herpes is forever and VD's a shame, but age changed the rules of the dating game. Stick out your hand, here comes condom man.
I didn't have sex in the 80s. Celibacy, is that the thing of the 80s?
I do not understand celibacy. I'm sorry. I think it's an alien concept to me.
If you wanted to rate the 80s just on its erotic content, I think you would call this decade a failure.
Love stings. Love stings. Yeah. Love stings. Love stings.
Ah, the smell of it.
I don't think that I'm using sex to sell myself. I think that I'm a very sexual person, and that comes through in my performing.
Come on, girls. You believe in love. Oh, what's love got to do? Got to do with it. What's love but a second-hand emotion?
There are many, many levels to a sexual life, quite a few of which they don't talk about and they don't make movies about, and that are really, really exciting and tremendously fulfilling. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that married people can do that you're never going to be able to do with a one-night stand or a one-month stand, because it depends on a lot of trust. I'm talking about feelings. I'm not talking about the Kama Sutra here.
You can't talk about sex in the 80s without talking about things like AIDS, things like AIDS, things like AIDS.
In the beginning of the 80s, when I first got to New York, it was crazy everywhere. Sort of people weren't really taking any kind of precaution, weren't thinking twice about how many times they'd have sex a week or with how many people or whatever.
We were getting a little out of hand there, folks. You know, everything was so indulgent. You know, let's do drugs, let's just go nuts, let's just golf ourselves to death, you know?
First it was herpes in the 80s. It put a big damper on free love or whatever it was called.
And then, of course, into, you know, by 1982 and 83, the beginnings of the AIDS epidemic.
They are dealing with some new, deadly, sexually transmitted disease. One of the most frightening.
I don't remember the first time I heard of AIDS, but it was like I never heard of it. Then one day, that's all everybody was talking about. I was like, out of nowhere, everyone was talking about AIDS.
From the start, this disease has evoked highly emotional and often irrational responses.
Quarantine will be applied where necessary in order to prevent the spread of the disease.
No one's sure of exactly what's going on with this disease, and I don't want to take chances with my children. I love them too much.
You know, there's nothing like a crisis to find out, you know, who you are.
Is this a Darwinian thing about promiscuity? I don't know. It still looks to me like a germ warfare experiment gone horribly wrong.
Is AIDS God's way of telling us that we've been doing something wrong? I don't think so.
The disease didn't occur because gay men do stuff other people don't like.
It's a right-wing dream come true. A disease that can't be cured, that wipes out homosexuals and drug addicts.
This is not a political issue. This is a health issue. This is not a gay issue. This is a human issue. And I came here today in the hope that my epitaph would not read, that I died of red tape.
Fight back! Fight AIDS! Fight Russia! Push it down on me, pressing down on you. No man has fallen.
A whole generation has grown up that hasn't had to go to war. But there is a war going on, and it's a different kind of war.
You can just compare AIDS to drugs. I mean, as long as drugs was contained within the black community, within the ghettos, I mean, it was not a national epidemic.
Under pressure.
It's horrible to think that the government might have responded differently if the disease would have affected white middle-class America. Would they have? Probably.
Series of modern time. Man with the most publicized case of AIDS, Rock Hudson, flew home from Paris today on a chartered 747 jet.
Rock Hudson really was a turning point for the way that this country dealt with it. I mean, even just acknowledging that someone that was a national hero who was gay forced people to deal with it.
You know, AIDS is a powerful and mysterious disease that continues to elude us, but we are more powerful because we can stop it from spreading any further by educating ourselves and finding out the facts.
We've declared AIDS public health enemy #1.
Many people, especially our youth, are not receiving information that is vital to their future health and well-being. This silence must end.
I don't quarrel with that, but I think that abstinence has been lacking in much of the education.
And they think that by putting this message forth that it will induce young people to be good little Americans, you know?
Kids are going to have sex whether you want them to or not. They're going to have sex. It's part, they have to. It's part of growing up. They shouldn't be terrified of it. They should just maybe place a little more value on what it means.
Bill Krause, Bob Greenwood, Richard Anderson.
I think for me the thing that personalized it most was seeing a football field hunk of the quilt project. That thing really hits, you know, and you just see its people.
James L., my much cherished and loved 11-year-old son, David Lee Mandel, Jr.
For me, the saddest thing that happened in the 80s was so many young men dying from AIDS.
Bill Cathcart.
I mean, I realized a while ago that I at a certain point was going to have to decide to admit to the public that I was sick, because partly out of frustration from watching the way other public figures have dealt with it, I sort of, I don't know, felt a natural sort of responsibility to being upfront and being realistic and being honest.
We've lost a whole generation of artists. We've lost a generation of choreographers and painters and photographers and theater people. They're gone now. They're not going to make any more work. It's pretty horrible out there, and it's sad.
Los Niños, my friends, Peter Hujar, Tucker Ashworth, Robert Hayes, Antonio Lopez.
Can agree that Vietnam veterans deserve recognition and appreciation for their sacrifices.
thank you for your courage. Thank you for being patient with your countrymen.
Power. Who has the power? The president has power. Margaret Thatcher has a lot of power. Any dictator has power. They have power.
I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now.
I believe it's essential that the Congress approve.
Is a sign not only that this attack has failed.
No one can liquidate the PLO. I want it all.
Politicians are politicians. They live in another world. They speak another language.
They got their rules. We got nothing to do about it.
And if it weren't for large populations around them that they can use for toys, they'd be out of a job.
We live in a political world. Love don't have any place. We're living in times when men commit crimes, and crime don't have a face.
Power became a new drug.
We live in a political world, the one we can see and can feel, but there's no one to check. It's all a stacked deck. We all know for sure that it's real.
What's to be done about terrorism? Is the solution to nuke them?
The difference between a freedom fighter and a terrorist is whether I agree with that person's cause or not.
When in the 80s did we forget that this country was founded in armed revolt and nourished on dissent?
Let it all out. These are the things I can do without. Come on.
People will rise up and there will be revolutions.
I think revolution is the only means of making social change.
Last Friday taught them their most bitter lesson, and we shall teach them again if they want it.
Tell me that it's evolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world.
In the 80s, we went from Reagan talking of the evil empire to Gorby's face being almost as well known to Americans as Bill Cosby's. I think a lot of wonderful things went on that in the 80s to rid us of the Cold War.
Soviet people do not want war.
Reaffirmed that nuclear war should never be fought.
We wanted to see perestroika succeed.
That's good idea.
People have a lot of power. We have a lot of power, but the thing of it is that we don't use it.
People have the power. People have the power. And listen, we can turn the world around. We can turn the earth's revolution.
There's two kinds of power. Power over, which lets you mess with people, and then there's power from within, which is the innate power that allows you to change your life and to create and to do really positive things that are good in the world.
It's very easy in this country, if you watch MTV all day, not to know about the crisis in farming, or a flood in Bangladesh, or a famine in Ethiopia. It's dead easy. It's also easy not to know about torture in the world, I think what we're very good at doing is bringing these issues to people who don't normally hear them.
I just don't know if I buy all that stuff.
I don't think that it is necessary to place the responsibility of changing the world on rock and roll.
Who else is going to do it?
We are the people. And we live forever. We are the people. And our future's looking on the way.
I was hoping the 80s make rock and roll pertinent as opposed to just entertainment.
25 stars sang for nothing at today's recording session in London, and all the proceeds will go to famine relief.
When he saw the TV pictures from Ethiopia, Bob Geldof of the Boomtown Rats decided he had to do something. And he found his pop friends felt the same.
You know, there is people starving to death, and people in rock and roll are overfed, you know, and you worry about it, and you worry about your place in it. And I'm learning more and more that the best way I can contribute as a person and as what is to do what I do best, which is to make music.
It's good when music and the artists who create it are willing to get involved in the painful side of life.
We're communicating, you know, and that's what it's all about.
Massive stars from everywhere doing different songs. It just seems to work.
By doing the thing that we love to do, by making music, we actually take part in freeing other people. They always say that music sets you free, but in this case, it really does set somebody free.
I think that's the future for us. You know, I think music and human rights activism is going to be a thing of the future more and more.
Amnesty did what it set out to do, but which ones are a scam, which ones aren't, like they put together benefits sometimes where the benefit ends up being for the performers who get exposure.
I don't know that that's a bad thing because it still makes people aware of what's going on.
The problems are so enormous that even rock and roll, with as much money as they've raised, cannot solve them because the money simply does not get to where it's supposed to go a lot of the time.
The farm crisis is worse now than it's ever been. And I don't know, but I would imagine people are still starving in Africa.
Whatever we're doing, it's obviously not enough.
Even if one person out of all this stays alive, then it's cost effective. £135 million for life to me is cheap, even if one of them stays alive.
Don't give up the fight. 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 Don't give up the fight.
You know what time it is. You know what time it is.
Andy Warhol once said that everyone's famous for 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Time flies when you're young and famous.
I kind of feel like that right now.
Will I be famous?
Certainly, it was easier to become famous in the 80s.
It's a little overwhelming.
It's really an honor. It's almost totally devastating.
It's like being in a TV movie.
It is something that we must study.
I ran the whole race.
Something we must understand.
And there's a mystery about me, I think, because I'm not able to say more than I am. But that's okay.
It is a shame that so much nonsense has become to be considered news.
Stupid.
You know what time it is.
Don't you forget about me. Don't. What's the name? What's the name?
I have today asked President Reagan not to forward my nomination to the Supreme Court.
Vice President, it has such a nice ring to it.
Oh, yes.
What's the name? What's the name? Hey, where's the beat?
One day, there won't be as much attention paid to it.
No one even heard of me, and suddenly I won all these Grammys. And
Burn.
As you say, a footnote in history.
If Andy Warhol was right, about their 15 minutes of fame, that for most of us, myself included, our 15 minutes is probably about up.
Am I dreaming? No.
We're on our way.
The 80s, without a doubt. The 80s, without a doubt, are the electronic age.
Heart has been successfully implanted. The patient is now.
In vitro fertilization is becoming increasingly common.
Not in service. This is a recording.
I am totally anti-technology, except for the basics like microwaves.
Videotape.
Gadgetry.
Fax machines.
Answering machines.
My favorite technology for the whole decade is the Walkman.
CDs changed everything in music.
Are you kidding? We don't even have vinyl anymore.
I don't know yet what I feel about that little plastic clear thing, you know? And I'm sort of old-fashioned. I like go, come, stop, off.
Cable TV. Car phones. All this electronic stuff have become of age in the 80s, and they've changed the way we live.
There really is now this whole sort of generation of kids growing up with computers.
The brain is only a binary computer, a series of on-off switches.
The computer generation is going to make changes we can't even imagine at this point. I mean, everyone sort of has a hand in sort of creating reality and inventing reality. I think that the direction that we're moving is sort of giving access to a lot more people to participate in a lot of, from a lot of different levels. They're going to take it places that we can't even imagine yet.
4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Challenger. Engine throttling up, 3 engines now at 100%. Challenger, go with throttle. Challenger now heading down range. 1 minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God.
Society's capable of doing anything. Sure, it could solve acid rain. It could solve the greenhouse effect. It could clear up rivers. It's capable of anything. Will it? Probably not.
How can we dance when our earth is burning? How do we sleep while our beds are burning?
It's not a case of it being a small world. It's like we're all living in the same high-rise. If they blow a reactor in Chernobyl, I get radioactive fallout on my lettuce.
I've reassessed what civilization is. Civilization now means a society that can live and not destroy its environment.
It's like viewing a rape. You see the land literally raped, destroyed. It can never be replaced.
In terms of like really stopping people from destroying the earth, I just don't, it's too late.
It's never too late to try to make things better than they are. If you're going to have children, you've got to actively be involved in trying to make things better, or what are they going to grow up into?
And it happens to be an emergency. Some things aren't meant to be. Some things don't come for free.
There's the United States government, and then there's another government, and it's bigger than the United States, and it runs the world. It's the government of the multinational corporations. They're like a virus or something. They have no soul. They're just these huge, gigantic things that are taking over the world.
I have a feeling that things are going to get better, but they're going to get kind of worse before they get better. And I think the people are becoming more aware now. They're educating themselves.
If we don't have any place to live, any air to breathe, any water to drink, then other stuff makes a whole lot of difference, you know, not even the bomb.
This is your land, take it in your hand. This is your land.
A lot of people get on the bandwagon for a while and then they get disillusioned and disheartened because change comes so slowly. And people have to have patience and perseverance. That's the most important thing. It's still going to take years and years to reverse the damage that is already done. So hopefully in the 90s things will start to turn around, you know. I mean, you have to hope so.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Nothing made me happier seeing the televangelist people go down in a flaming pile of muck.
Don't buy Exxon. They've just walked away from Alaska saying they've done what they can do.
5, 4,
3, 2, 1. Forget about catching up with the West Germans or catching up with the Japanese, because we can't catch up with them until we fix the education system.
You get called disloyal these days if you don't want an amendment to ban burning the flag.
Jesse Helms talks about obscenity in the arts. I don't know why he doesn't just turn his nose 180 degrees and go look at, like, the military establishment we have in this country.
We aspire to see the Chinese people have democracy.
One minute the government seemed to be sort of tolerating these mass demonstrations, and then the next minute was boom.
It was bad that the youth was shot in the square in China. But even worse than that, the leaders told the people June 4th didn't happen.
I see a lot of Soviet bloc countries looking and acting a little bit differently than they did 10 years ago.
You have to change the meaning of the word communism. It'll be capitalism, but they'll still call it communism.
Tomorrow's here and we're going to Moscow.
Communism is in trouble, certainly.
It's as if we won. Hey, look, folks, we won. Communism doesn't work.
We have a lot of great opportunities right now to change things for the better. You know, if we can just get people who aren't so set in their ways and who aren't living in the past to be brave enough to step into the future with an open heart and an open mind.
Make that change. So you have to hope for the 90s. Otherwise, you may as well call it quit on December 31st, 1989.
The problems are real and urgent. And any problem sort of created by man could be solved by man.
I'm not particularly optimistic, I have to admit.
Bad things have happened, and they will continue to happen unless we fix them now.
It's possible that in the 90s something will happen that will make us all have to choose sides in our lives.
I look toward the 90s with a great degree of hope because I see the possibilities for peace without end.
Maybe the 90s should be the I'll give something to you generation.
It's going to get real bad before it gets real good.
People who want things not to be that way had really better get organized now.
New ways, new thinking with a new era is coming in.
So I think it's really opening up in a way, going into the next decade.
I'd like in the 90s to see things matter. And people to care that things mattered.
I'm kind of maybe naively optimistic.
I think it's kind of a lucky time to be alive.
Hope for the best, expect the worst.
I really don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what's going to happen.
And we'll see, I don't know. That's the exciting part of being alive.
Tomorrow, people, where is your best? Tomorrow, people, how long will you last? Tomorrow, people, where is your best? Tomorrow, people, how long will you last? Today you say, today you're here. Tomorrow you say you're gone, but you're gone so long. If
What would I call the 80s? Over.
On